Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this afternoon. Welcome to the Greater Gwinnett Reentry Alliance luncheon for the month of October. I am Lorenzo Lewis and I am your president. And always, before I get started, I always want to acknowledge my executive committee, starting off with our Vice President, Mr. Brendan Spar, who is also going to be our producer for this morning. And next we have our Treasurer, Taylor Davis. And last but definitely not least, we have our wonderful Secretary, Ms. Antoinette Fields. And then also I want to acknowledge our advisory board. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to do what I can do so that we all have a wonderful experience with GGRA. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Before we get started, I always want also to acknowledge new members. So I want to acknowledge our newest member, Mr. Daniel Baruch. He's with Rise Up Recovery. Welcome so much to GGRA. Thank you for being a member. And then also I want to acknowledge our newest partner, Miss Lisa Bolin with Ridgeview Monroe. So thank you so much for being a gold member. Thank you for your continued support. And we look forward to having a wonderful relationship with you and your organization. Again, it is so nice that you guys have took a part out of your day to come and be with GGRA, and we love our reentry community. And what I want to do at this time, I want to bring up Mr. Sergeant Jacob Beard. Jacob is over the Gwinnett Reentry Incentive Program at Gwinnett County Jail, and he's here to give us an update on what's going on with GRIP. Jacob, are you there?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on board. We certainly have a lot of stuff to report in terms of updates for GRIP. I made a few notes so I didn't forget all of them. So everyone knows Chief Solis has expanded things pretty greatly. If you were not aware, the Gwinnett Reentry Intervention Program is Sheriff Conway's initiative that he started in 2012 to reduce recidivism in Gwinnett County by partnering with organizations and partners to give access to resources that people may not have been able to access before, such as housing, education, drug rehabilitation, medical treatment, transportation, things of that nature. We've had a lot of success in the last 8 years. We've been able to reduce the recidivism rate for participants by about 50%. It varies. Sometimes it's 51, sometimes it's 49, but right in that area. And for the general population, the recidivism rate has been lowered by approximately 5%, I believe. So our average daily population is around 1,800 people right now. And the population at any given time for GRIP is usually around 600 to 700. So a much smaller portion of the population. Chief Solis has done a lot to try and expand that programming. Sheriff Conway's always been a huge proponent to reentry and restorative justice, and Chief Solis has kind of picked up that mantle. So here recently, he's given a lot of focus on expanding treatment for individuals who suffer from substance abuse and have mental health needs that need to be addressed. So some of the things that we've been able to do, everybody may have seen in the news, the barracks, which was our first therapeutic community. And what that is just it's a different way of running a housing unit. We work with the individuals and bring treatment into the pod to hopefully give them some of those coping mechanisms they may not have had, and then still do the linkage to those resources on the back end for their aftercare. Since November of last year, when we started the barracks, we have also been able to open a substance abuse housing unit, therapeutic community called Restoration and Recovery. And we started a women's needs therapeutic community. All these things were being pushed pretty hard by Chief Solis. It's really satisfying to see somebody at that level moving stuff forward. and seeing the type of work that we've been able to accomplish in a relatively short time is pretty exciting. Another thing that we have started to do is take a different look at how we can address certain issues while individuals are in custody. Historically, a large portion, up to 70% of individuals who are incarcerated have a mental health diagnosis. So we're trying to address that in a few different creative ways. We've started bringing back in some of those therapeutic components to the housing units that they are going to be in. And we've done things insofar as changing how we try and get people access to resources and get them access to the state level evaluations that have to be done. Some people may be familiar with the term clinical restoration, or more often than not, and what the movies say is criminally insane, something like that. Those weird terms, right? So if somebody actually does need to be evaluated to see if they are competent to stand trial, historically, they've had to wait for months to go to a state hospital to actually get that evaluation and then go through the competency process. I'm proud to say Gwinnett County Jail is doing that at the jail. We actually have partnered with the DBHDD, and they are coming on site and doing their evaluations and starting that restoration process while the person's still here. So we don't have to waste all of that time that they'd be waiting to get to Georgia Regional to actually do the evaluation, and we can start the process here and very quickly, opposed to 8 months or so. It's usually done within 3 to 4 months. It can be established if somebody is competent to stand trial or if they need to go through restoration. And if they do need to go through restoration, they can start providing the classes here. And typically in the time that it would have historically taken somebody to even get to Georgia Regional, we're able to accomplish that on site. So we're reducing the amount of time that individuals, who suffer from a mental health diagnosis have to spend in jail, which is something that many law enforcement officers are cognizant of, that the individuals who suffer from mental health have a higher propensity for incarceration. So we want to address that in creative and effective ways. So we're hitting a lot of different things. Trying to think. I hit all my bullet points. Are there any questions or anything that I may need to answer, Lorenzo? Or
Well, no. Actually, I was very pleasantly surprised just to hear, some of the announcements that's going on there. I have a question or two, but I just really reserve that for our upcoming segment. But no, thank you so much for providing that wonderful information.
Happy to do it. I was happy to be here.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sergeant Jacob Beard. All right. And so now, at this time, we wanted to have any announcements from our reentry organizations. Anyone out there that has any updates that they would like to share with the community, or any new things that's happening in your organizations, this is the time to share it with all those that are on this call so we can come together and make sure that we have all the resources that we need to help those in the reentry field. So is it anyone out there that has any announcements for their reentry organizations at this time? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I can't see everyone. No one has anything that they would like to share from their work or wonderful organizations?
Well, Lorenzo, I'll jump in there and do an invite. Now, this is not in the Gwinnett area. It is in the Savannah area. We have some about 8 to 10 positions available with our company called the Safe Staffing. The way you get in contact, if you know somebody in the Savannah area that needs a job opportunity paying $12 an hour, they can go to the website. I'll put that in the chat, safestaffinginc.com, and then they can apply there. And then we will have our recruiters to recruit them and put them in a position. Safe staffing we only hire returning citizens in particular. That's a great opportunity for them in the Savannah area at this point. Thank you.
Well, appreciate that, Lee. Now, is there anything in particular that an applicant would need to know when signing up?
No, just go to that website, safestaffinginc.com. It's $12 an hour, and our recruiter would take it from there. Just, we'll help them put their resume up there and go from there. But nothing in particular. The recruiter will take it from there to helping them getting employed. Okay.
Thank you. Well, that's a wonderful thing. 12 positions, in this day and time, it's hard to find work, especially for someone that has a challenging background. So thank you guys for all the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else that would like to share from their organization? Okay. All right. Well, at this time, I'll turn it over to my Vice President, Brendan Spire, for another announcement.
Thanks, Lorenzo. One of the,
You're on, there you go.
Thanks, Lorenzo. So one of the opportunities that we extend to anyone who is formerly incarcerated or has been through the legal system is the opportunity to give a story, the Better Chances testimonial that we will then give to the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office, give to the jail to be played over their closed circuit television. So if anyone knows anyone, or if you are interested in giving a testimony for that, you can email us at info@gwinnettreentry.org, and we can meet with you either over Zoom and record it, or we can come to your place that you're at, your workplace or your home, or you can meet with us at another location, and we can record your testimony then to broadcast out over the closed circuit television at the Gwinnett County Jail. Another opportunity is if you are a reentry service provider and you would like to have a message or something, maybe a pastor or something that would like to give a message. If you are a GGRA member or a partner, we extend that same opportunity to you, that we will record your video. There's no guarantee that the Gwinnett County Jail will play that video, but we will put it on DVD for you, and we will hand it off to the Gwinnett County Jail for approval and dissemination into the population there. So we are extending that offer to any GGRA member or partner that we will come out and video you and your information, and then put that on DVD for you that you can have, and also we will give a copy to the Gwinnett County Jail, and if they choose, they can broadcast it as well over the closed circuit television there. So something brand new for our members and partners, and if you're interested in joining GGRA, you can do so today on our website. It's gwinnettreentry.org, and there's a join button, and it's very easy to join as a member and support the great work that the reentry service providers do, and also GGRA bringing everyone together once a month to share announcements and to collaborate. We usually would have these meetings at the jail where everyone can meet and greet and one-on-one collaborate, but with the new normal that we're in, this is what we're doing. So we can bring these great discussions to you. That's kind of what GGRA is all about. And now we extend the video capabilities, since it's very difficult to get into the jail now. It's difficult if you're a service provider to get into the jail. Let me put it like that. It still is as easy as it always has been to get into the jail, but if you're a service provider, we have another way for you to attempt that. So, any questions about the videos?
Yes. Is there a length requirement?
So we're going to try to keep it brief. I'd like to keep the testimonials to about 15 minutes, and I will record half an hour or whatever as long as you talk, but I'm probably going to edit it down to about 10 or 15 minutes just for brevity sake, and then you know, that's you'll have the video on DVD, or so you can upload it to your YouTube or wherever you want to put it as well.
Great. That sounds wonderful.
Great. Well, that's all I've got for that. And if no questions, we can move over to the next part of the segment. And let's see, he's coming into the room now. I'd like to welcome Dr. Dave Davis. He actually discovered us through our newspaper article in the AJC. Dr. Davis is a psychiatry practitioner in Atlanta. He has the Piedmont Psychiatric Clinic in Atlanta, and he discovered us through our newspaper article in the AJC a few months ago, and it was so awesome that he actually sees patients that are involved in the legal system. So he is a board-certified clinical psychiatrist, spends about 20% of his efforts doing evaluations for judges, attorneys, corporations, and other businesses involving civil, criminal, and probated cases like child custody, personal injury, addiction, disability, workers' compensation, wills, criminality, guardianship, brain injury, etc. So, Dr. Davis, I'm going to welcome you to the GGRA October Luncheon and let you have a word.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, thank you. It's just you stated it correctly, and I just wanted to volunteer to see an occasional person who's released who needs some kind of mental health care, and I'm doing this as a volunteer thing for me, so that I wouldn't be charging the person, whom I assume most of the people are not going to have insurance or have much money. So yeah, you said exactly. I'm very, very busy clinician, and I'm the director of the Piedmont Psychiatric Clinic at Piedmont Hospital. So if there's any way I can help with this group of people, I want to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. And how would people get in contact with you?
Well, if they would need to call me at the clinic and identify who they are, and that they are coming through GGRA, and I'll talk to them and see if I can be of help. So the phone number for my office is 404-355-2914, and my staff will be on the alert to try to provide the information that person would need for me to evaluate them. In other words, we asked people to fill out some forms, and with the COVID, we're not seeing a whole lot of them in person, so we do it FaceTime.
Great, thank you so much. And I guess you have a website as well?
Yes. The clinic, it's www. Piedmont Psychiatric Clinic, but I also have a website myself. But I think the easy, and I also have one for legal things, but I think the easiest thing would be just for them to telephone, and then we can provide whatever information that they want. I've got 4 boards in different psychiatric specialties, and so I've been doing this for 50 something years. So it's not something new to me. It's going to be new to them.
It's great. Lorenzo, do you have anything for Dr. Davis, or does anyone have any questions for Dr. Davis?
No, I don't, but I do want to say just thank you so much just for the good work that you're doing, Doctor.
Well, thank you, Lorenzo. I appreciate that. So I hope I can be of help to somebody. This is a special group.
Oh, well,
Dr.
thank you.
Davis, and I'll turn it back over to Lorenzo.
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, thank you, Dr. Davis, and thank you also, Brendan. So we are at the segment of the luncheon where we have a question and answering session. So if anyone has any questions for any of our providers or anybody that want to give any more information, this is the segment that we would like to do this in. So is there anyone that have any questions for anyone that has already spoken thus far? Unmute your mic and we'll acknowledge you. No questions? All right, well then we'll go to this next segment that we entitled Have a Need, Meet a Need. And I know that in the community, there are many people that need help, and you're connected to these people. And a good way to provide help and get help and resources to them is that we bring it here to GGRA, where everyone on the Zoom can hear a need, and it may be someone that has the resources to connect with you to provide that need for the person that needs it. So this is that segment. Have a need, meet a need. Is there a need that anyone knows that someone has? Okay, I see. Go ahead.
I know someone who I believe is coming out of jail today that hasn't nowhere to stay because of the stigma that coming out of jail, you could have the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's anyone that's able to help me out with some suggestions or know of anywhere that there are any resources for this person, because they're being released. I just got a text, they're out from Walton County.
Oh,
And,
Walton County.
They're out. They live in Gwinnett.
Oh, they live in Gwinnett. Okay.
From Gwinnett, and they got arrested in Gwinnett. Well, I guess they must have got arrested in Walton County because that's where they took them. But they got out today on bond. But as I said, there is a problem with somewhere for him to go.
Okay, thank you. So, so Ms. Gail, she definitely has a need. Is there anyone out there that can provide her any information that could potentially help this person that has just been released?
Yeah. Hey, Lorenzo, it's
Yes.
Brian DiNapoli. How are you?
I'm fine, Brian. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. I just wanted to mention the Reentry Partnership Housing Program.
Mm-hmm.
It provides temporary housing for people coming out of jail or prison, or from an accountability court, or they're just under felony supervision. This program provides up to 6 months of housing. Although we do not have a provider in Gwinnett, they should speak to their supervising officer if they're under felony supervision to get a referral to RPH or Reentry Partnership Housing. And we did wrap. I'm sorry?
They got out on bond. Bill?
Okay, out on bond. They would have to be under felony, it would have to be under felony sentence. They'd have to be sentenced.
Oh, it's not
and be either on probation or parole. But yeah, just keep it in mind in the future.
Okay.
And we did wrap up our workshops, RPH provider application workshops in September, and we did have 2 or 3 potential providers in Gwinnett. And hopefully they will apply this month in October, and I will keep you all posted.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see your name again. Brian?
It's Brian DiNapoli.
Brian.
And I can put my, I'll put my email in the chat box.
Okay. And well, thank you so much, Brian. And Ms. Gail, go to the chat room because there's several wonderful suggestions that are coming through that could help you out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. It is now 12:29, and we're about to go into our next segment, which is entitled "Conversations with the Candidates." So we want to start off on time to respect everyone's times. So thank you so much for everyone that had the wonderful things to say, wonderful suggestions. And at this point in time, I just want to say that when we go into this segment, we are going to allow some members and partners to ask a question. Now, if you have a question that you want to ask our candidates, then you would raise your hand and you would get acknowledged in through our producer. And then we'll bring you up to ask your questions throughout the conversation. So with that, we are going to start our next segment, which is the conversations with the candidates. And at this time, we are going to have conversations with the candidates of the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office. But a little while ago, we had a statement that came in. We are going to speak with, first of all, Chief Lou Solis, and he's the chief of the Gwinnett County Police Department. And then we were also going to speak with Mr. Kibo Taylor. But Mr. Taylor wasn't able to be with us at the last minute, and Mr. Taylor has issued a statement that he would like for me to read. And it says, "Dear Gwinnett County Reentry Alliance, it is with a heavy heart that I write to rescind from today's event. I welcome every opportunity to speak with the citizens of Gwinnett, and I appreciate your efforts in hosting this forum. Unfortunately, a very dear family member passed this morning, and I will be using this time to comfort my grieving family. I ask for your consideration and prayers during this difficult time. Best wishes to you and your guests for a successful event. Sincerely, Kibo Taylor." Thank you so much, Mr. Taylor. And we all here at the Gwinnett Reentry Alliance, we wish you the best. So thank you so much just for giving us the consideration of wanting to come on and have a conversation with us. But at this time, I would like to introduce to you, again, as I said, he is the chief of Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office, and he is Mr. Lou Solis. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
You're looking well. You're looking well.
Thank you. The day's early.
Oh, amen. Well, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to do this. I know you're very busy, so this means a lot to the community. So just thank you for availing us with this time.
Thank you.
So just starting off our conversation, I just want for you to share with the community your journey that has come to you being a candidate for the Sheriff's Department. Tell us about the journey that has led all the way up to this point. And then also share with us your heart for reentry.
Well, I was the assistant police chief, and the sheriff has wanted me to come work over here at the sheriff's office. But I will tell you, being a police officer, I love the job. It's a great job. Despite what's going on around the country, I think that we still have a lot of young people coming in to apply. So it's a great profession. But as far as my journey, I will tell you that when I first got here, I did not know early on that the sheriff was going to retire. So then when he asked me if late in the year, this past year, that he was going to retire, and he asked me if I wanted to come on board, and of course I had to sit down with my wife, and and I will tell you, I spent 20 years in the military, so I gave to the nation, 20 years. My wife gave 21, by the way, And so living in Gwinnett County for over 21 years, I figured, hey, let's try to let's try it. Let's try to see if I can be I know I can be, but I want to show the citizens of Gwinnett County that I can be your sheriff, and I can be very. We're a constitutional office, so I got to make sure that I go right down the middle. So.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And it's definitely difficult to run, period. But then also in this climate that we find ourselves in, I can only imagine, the added challenges, that would bring to you.
This is a special year. I would tell you this is my first time running, so it's a new thing for me and my family. But I will tell you, working 6 days out of the week and at the same time running the campaign is it's pretty interesting. But the jail, the courts, the fugitive squad that we're running every day, but it's fun. And I think the best part of the job, it's two parts. It's one, when we catch all these really, really bad guys, the fugitive squad. It's a great feeling to catch these guys, get them off the street. But the other great feeling too is with these programs that we have to try to help the people trying to transition back into the community.
That's great. And I tell you, Sergeant Bear did a wonderful job with explaining some of the things that you guys have in place. And I know firsthand from working with GRIP that's a wonderful program. But let's talk about what's going on in the jail, especially in the midst of COVID. How are you, if elected, planning on dealing with bringing the wonderful people back in, like the volunteers, the educators that have the GED program in place, the mentors, and I don't even know if you're even letting the clergy in, and then also even visitors and those that may even be traveling from out of state to see their loved ones. How are you planning on dealing with that in a safety aspect, bringing people back in to the jail?
Well, I will tell you, when the COVID first kicked off, we sat down with the command staff. Everybody was in there, not only the deputies, but also civilians, because we have a lot of civilian leaders in here as well that do a great job. But I will tell you that we've tried to cover every base of the COVID. We're lucky that every Wednesday we have a White House update every Wednesday that tells us what's going on as far as COVID. Thursday and Friday, one of those days, it's picked for the medical provider to also give an update of where we're at, and also working hand in hand with the health department, trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Matter of fact, I even said it today in a meeting that the jail right now, the center of it is it's probably the safest place to be right now. What worries me is the people coming in to work every day. Those are the ones that we're checking, spot checking, and trying to make sure that we keep everybody safe. Not only the inmates, but our personnel as well. So those are some heavy tasks that we've passed out. But we do have, as far as the programs that are going on right now, we do have some people coming in. But I will tell you that one of the, and I'll go ahead and say her name, but Angie Blank, Arthur Blank's wife, has helped us out tremendously. She's partnered with us. She's provided us with some screens, some cameras to make sure that we can do these classes with the barracks, the restoration and recovery, mental health. So we're trying to make sure that we're trying to stay in contact, with the people that need to see the inmates. I'll go ahead and I know my staff is probably going to shoot me in the leg when I get off of this one, but the one thing that I'm trying to do is we have Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year coming up. One of the things that we're throwing around is how do I bring some families in
Yes.
to actually see their loved ones. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So we're throwing that around. We had a meeting yesterday because I tell you, those two right there, you know, Christmas and the Thanksgiving is probably one of the hardest holidays right there. So I'm trying to make sure that, hey, how do we get this so that they can see their loved ones? And so we're sitting in a room full of smart people, and we're going to figure it out because I think that'll help mentally, and it'll motivate some people. And what I mean by that, it'll probably calm their demeanor down.
I believe it would. I really believe it would. And you have every confidence that you'll be able to get that done?
I hate the word no, and I don't like that word, but I'm going to try to do everything that I can to make sure that and maybe not and I hate, you know, how do we do with the children? How do we keep the children safe? How do we keep the staff safe? I mean, that's probably one thing that we're working on right now. So hopefully we can get this done. I hope we can.
Okay. And Chief, as you know, there are men and women being released every day, you know, in the county jail, and immediately they are faced with identification issues, not having their IDs, birth certificates, and it's causing them to be viewed out there in the marketplace as unemployable. And I know that GRIP is doing a wonderful job with the people that are actually in GRIP. But what about those that are not connected to GRIP? If you're elected, do you have any plans to have anything in place that would help someone that may be 60 to 90 days from release? Do you have anything in place that could help them with those type of resources like IDs or birth certificates to have them be able to have that at the ready when it's time for them to be released?
And I will tell you the thing that we're trying to do, and this is what this is my personal assessment when I got here. GRIP is the nucleus of all the programs that we have. And I hope Sean Bear's not on, but he's a great guy and we can't lose that guy. And he's got a great staff. And I will tell you that one of the things is, it's not just the programs that we keyed into. And the reason I say that, because when I'm out in the county, one of the things is I'll have people come up to me, and I'll give you a quick story. I had a guy, I was walking in, went to go get a drink and a soda. And when I walked in there, this guy starts walking up to me. He's got 2 cell phones in his ears and he's got a backpack on. He walks up to me and he goes, "Hey man, you're Chief Solis." And I'm like, "Oh man." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "Hey man, I just want to thank you, and you're doing a great job. And I used to work there." And I'm like, I said, "Why'd you leave?" And then one of my staff members that was with me says, "No, he was an inmate." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought he worked for us the way, you know." And I told the guy, I said, "Look, if you have any problems," and I gave him my card. I said, "If you got any problems, you need any help, we have a program that we can help you out with." But that being said, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that I can, that we get with our staff to, hey, how can we help the people getting out? And even the ones that are saying, hey, you know, you say 69 days, but all of a sudden we get that curveball. Hey, the guy's leaving next week, or he's leaving today, or he just came back from court, he's leaving today. So the thing that we're trying to do is also connect with the family to try to say, hey, we're trying to, you know, get your family member out of here. You know, he has a problem with as far as documents go, because as far as birth certificates, you know, we're trying to get the people to this is who you need to go see. And if you connect with them, they can help you out. If you have a problem, call us back. And you know, just because you leave the jail doesn't mean GRIP's over. Doesn't mean that, you know, you're not, you can't contact us. One of our things is if you're not in the program, it doesn't matter. We'll still try to help you out. I know someone said something about finding a guy somewhere to stay. You know, hey, we have that luxury to help someone out for 2 to 5 days to stay in a hotel until they get ready. And we've done that before.
Okay. And so I know you have the pod called the Barracks, which seems to be working very well in there. Have you thought about maybe even instituting something like that for identification so they can work on that while they're about 60 or 90 days out and they could actually have that?
Yeah, so I have people coming in to the barracks, the restoration, the mental health units. So, hey, come back in there. Hey, this is who you need to go see. So I have the people coming into the barracks, and that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure. And I think someone said earlier, and I think I read one of the things about jobs. I had one of the, matter of fact, his name's Ernie Lopez. Ernie Lopez owns Atlanta Concrete in Norcross. He has 5 companies, and he came into the barracks, and one of the things he said, my dad's a former veteran, or he's a veteran, and he said that, when you guys get out, what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you come to my place of business, and I'm going to hire you, and that's pretty cool. I mean, here's a guy with 5 companies saying that, hey, I'm going to hire you right off the bat, and it's stuff like that when we get people in here to come help out. Those are the stories you don't hear. So, I want to thank people like that. And if you know people that want to come speak to our people, that we're more than glad to host them.
Okay, Chief, Sergeant Barrett is back on, and he asks if it's okay with you. He could speak on the identification if you would like him to.
Sure.
Sergeant Barrett?
Hey, I'm back. So earlier you were talking about individuals who aren't necessarily a part of GRIP. Just for clarity, if you're incarcerated in the Gwinnett County Jail, you're eligible for GRIP. All somebody has to do is ask. And there is difficulty with individuals who are only here for a short amount of time, and even more difficulty with getting the identification documents and stuff like that. But it is something that we are actively working on. Currently, we partner, and she may even be on the call today, Patrice Worth is with Hearts to Nourish Hope, and they help us out a lot with getting identification documents for individuals. But we're actually looking into possibly printing county identification. We, at one point, we kind of toyed with the idea, and we did a couple of dry runs, but that would just be something that some of the local organizations that we partner with will accept as identification. And I have been battering down the door of the Department of Driver Services, or DMV, whatever it's called these days. They have an MOU with state corrections for individuals who leave custody to get an identification. And we are working to replicate that MOU. It's been a long, difficult process, but we're still actively working on it. So those are all things that we have in the hopper, so to speak. Hearts to Nourish Hope does a great job with us. And we hope to be able to, the ultimate goal is to be able to serve everybody in some capacity that comes to this facility. All they have to do is ask.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. So at this time, we have a member of the community and of GGRA that would like to ask you, Chief, a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So at this time, if Melissa Cook, are you out there?
I am.
Okay, Melissa, go right ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I am an advocate for those with a brain disorder called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Many times it's misinterpreted, and it makes these people who are impacted by this brain disorder very vulnerable to misinterpretation of their behaviors while encountering a stressful situation. And one of those characteristics of this behavior is emotional dysregulation. And I am curious to know, what are your plans for implementing CIT, crisis intervention, or de-escalation intervention training for your officers?
So with the deputies, what we're doing right now, ma'am, is on the de-escalation. We're doing 3 things right now in here at the Sheriff's Office. We brought in Dr. Tatum, who is a doctor in mental health. And Dr. Tatum has been teaching the de-escalation, what to recognize, and how to approach different people. And matter of fact, we're doing the other two things is diversity and also mental health. So we're trying to make sure that we can identify what's coming in the back so that we can talk to them. And right away, when someone comes into the back of the jail, when they bring them in, one of the things is not only do are the deputies there, but we also call the nurses, and then we have the 3 mental health nurses that are right here in the building, and they actually come talk to the individual while we're there with them. As a matter of fact, I had one there yesterday. The person was very upset. We had the mental health nurse there talking, and I will tell you, one of the things is we have to treat them just like we're talking right now. The guy yesterday was really upset, screaming and yelling, and I was trying to calm him down. And I finally asked him, "Hey, how can I help you? What can I do for you right now?" And he said, "I want to talk to my mom." I said, "All right, let's get his mom on the landline so he can talk to his mom." Mm-hmm. And so now I'm not a doctor, but one of the things is, hey, if that's going to calm him down, let's get him to a phone. So those are the things that we're trying to teach our deputies. Hey, ask them, what do you want? How can we help you? And then, but our biggest thing is we have to make sure that we listen to the mental health doctors that are here and the nurses, and also the doctor that's here 24/7.
Right. I hear what you're saying about, which sounds wonderful because it needs to happen. What about in the environment when they get the call and they have to go in an environment that there's some kind of crisis intervention, which is what, CIT, or the de-escalation techniques while they are encountering the situation? So a lot of those that I work with and I advocate for have a mental disorder called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Doesn't look like anything, but it has to do with their adaptive behaviors, which go to, in the future, I'm probably going to talk to Dr. Davis and Sergeant Baird, because this disorder of FASD is very much involved in the criminal justice system. So in the environment, how are the officers is there a program or training in place for the officers who are out in the environment?
As far as now, when you say out of the environment, the ones here in the jail, right?
No, the ones who are taking the calls and having to go to, are they trained at all with CIT or the?
We do CIT training as far as the sheriff's office, but as far as the police, the police officers, the police departments in their cities and their jurisdictions, when they bring them in, that I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that, all of us, we get the 3 mandatory classes that we have to go to. However, I've gone a step further and invited Dr. Tatum to come in. And as a matter of fact, you're more than welcome to come and speak with our and help us out because we can. The more help we get, the better it is to understand. Right. And that's why we brought Dr. Tatum in, to give us a different perspective of just that regular class that we give here. We wanted some outside perspective, and that's why we brought him in. And I will tell you, one of the things that we're also doing is we've ordered the medical restraint beds. That way they're not in handcuffs. They're kind of soft restraints. That way they don't get hurt. So they're on order, but because of COVID, it's hard to get stuff. But we're trying to make sure that we can identify some of the symptoms that's taught to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Well, we're almost out of time with this segment of the conversations with the candidates, and I want to thank you so much, Chief, for giving up your time. But before we go, is there anything else you would like to say to our viewing audience that would help them with the decision that they have to make in this upcoming election?
Well, I will tell you that we have to vote. Regardless of what your thought process is. At the end of the day, I'm just asking everybody, please come out and vote. And I will tell you that the thing as far as myself, Lou Solis, one of the things is we're working here at the jail. I've been here over 3 years. We've been doing the de-escalation, diversity, mental health. We brought the doctors in. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that that we're actually helping people to go the right path. So those are the things I want people to know, that, hey, Lou Solis has been doing this job for 3 years. over 3 years, and the barracks program, the rehabilitation program, the mental health. It's a day-to-day, hour by hour. Every day there's something going on here, and we're trying to make sure that we protect the people that are in our care. And I will make sure that I do that wholeheartedly. And before I go off, I just want to offer my condolences to Mr. Taylor, for his family.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Please thank our chief of Gwinnett County Sheriff's running for the sheriff's seat here. Thank you so much, Chief Solis, for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So everyone, it is 5 minutes till 1. We are going to take a 5-minute break before we come back with our second part of our conversation with the candidates. So we're taking 5 minutes. We are starting promptly at 1. just to help you, with the time. So again, first of all, I want to start off with asking you both, what journey did it take for you to come to this point in your lives to be running for this wonderful office of District Attorney? I'll start off with you, Ms. Austin Gaston.
Well, thank you all for having me today. I really appreciate this. This topic for reentry is very dear to me because I do believe that people deserve a chance to be successful citizens in our community, and that is imperative. Travis, we have raised 3 children, and we have 2 young grandchildren, and I'm totally invested in this community. And being on the campaign trail has also taught me a great deal. I've met a great deal of the constituents of Gwinnett County, and there's a need for change. And that's where I'm at with this. I met with young people that were marching for Black Lives Matter and getting an understanding of the dynamics involved in everything that connotates what we're dealing with. We're dealing with situations that really evolve 400 years. When you look at the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, and really what we have here, and you read that 13th Amendment, you have a situation where slavery never ended, it just evolved. And to tell the truth about the matter, Blacks and people of color are greatly impacted by the issues of mass incarceration and things of that nature that we have got to stop. We're also shackled with being in the school system. The school to prison pipeline is a problem. Education. So what I'm involved in this race, where I see the intersection of all of these areas, and this is what we need. As a district attorney, we need a fresh new voice there that can look at what the intersections are and mandate change. So that's what I'm asking for. Everyone listening, spread the word. I need your vote and I need your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Porter, the same question. Tell the viewers a little bit about your journey that has led you to be running yet again for this office, and then also your heart for reentry.
I was born in Massachusetts, and I actually grew up in the West Indies. And then my family moved to Atlanta in 1969. I went to high school here. I went to the University of Georgia undergraduate, and then I graduated from law school in 1981. I paid my own way through law school, so I had some debt I had to pay in the summer, but I came to work in Gwinnett County in September of 1981 as an assistant DA. Of course, Gwinnett was an entirely different county in 1981, and the office was much smaller. Throughout the years, I've never found another job that suited me as well, and so I've continued to do it. And my resume, I think, is the best way to describe it, is my resume is one of adaptation and change. I don't do perhaps a great job of publicizing what we do, but we have one of the oldest drug courts in the country, in the state. We have an accountability court that's both mental health and veterans courts, as well as we participate in a DUI court. We have pretrial diversion that allows first-time offenders to be diverted out without charge and without a criminal record. We are also working on a program where young people who are charged with what we call the 7 deadly sins, the 440 bill, we're actually going out and investigating 17 and 18-year-olds and juveniles who are charged with those crimes to decide whether or not we can deviate from the mandatory minimum. And of that, we've done about 40 cases and deviated in almost 2/3 of them. So I always have seen the criminal justice system as a way to solve individual problems, because most people aren't in the system because they're bad. They're in the system because they made a mistake. And so my goal is to set up a system that solves those problems, and each case is individual, and each case has to be judged individually. And it's based on that record that I'm asking the support of Gwinnett County voters, and I'm asking for your vote.
Okay, thank you. Before we go any further, I just want to say we are going to allow our members to ask a couple of questions for our candidates. So what you need to do is to go into the chat room and post that you have a question, and our producer will get with you on that, and then we'll bring you up at the appropriate time. So if you have any questions for either one of our candidates, you can start formulating those questions now and put them in the chat room, and then also on YouTube as well. And our producer will get with you to possibly be able to get you to ask that question. So speaking on what you just spoke of, Mr. Porter, I wanted to talk a little bit about our youth. And it just seems that our youth are getting records at a much too young age. And what that is doing is starting to affect, the rest of their lives, is putting them in an undesirable category. So the plan that you said that you had sounds like a good plan. Well, what is your stance on even first offenders and even non-violence ones that's keeping them out the system, or trying to allow them not to have that record that would pretty much hurt the rest of their lives? So I'll start back with you, Mr. Porter, on that.
Well, the First Offender Act, you've got to be aware, has both good sides and bad sides, in that a person who successfully serves their sentence will have their record cleared for certain purposes. And whereas as they fail, then they're liable to come back and be sentenced to the maximum of the crime they committed. So first offender is basically a situation where a defendant or a defense attorney should ask for it. Our position office-wide, and has been for years, is that if the attorney asks for it and they qualify, we don't oppose it. But I don't feel comfortable in recommending it because of the downside.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gaston, Ms. Austin Gaston, on that same question, I'm sorry.
Well, I think what I'm getting from your question is, what is it that we can do to keep children out of the criminal justice system?
Yes.
And that is one of my platforms. I don't want children to come into the criminal justice system. And I think, as the district attorney of this wonderful county, that there has to be more involvement. And that is what I will promise to the constituents of Gwinnett County, that I will be involved with the community and will work extremely hard to keep our children from coming into the system in the first place. If in event they do come into the system, I think we have to be more creative. We can't just lean back on what has been the status quo for 28 years. We have to do better than that. And I believe that our county deserves better than that. We have to be procreative. We have to be on the forefront of what our community needs. And as I indicated in my opening, all of this is interrelated. It's interrelated with education. It's interrelated with legislation on how we can do things differently to keep kids out of the system, what we can do when people come back out of the system to help them. And I do know that with the budget cuts and things like that, it's going to get even tighter. So you're really going to need someone in the district attorney's office that's raring and willing to get out there and change things for the better for our community. And that's what I submit to this county. That's what I will bring to it, is to do things in a more creative and in active way. So that's why I think I am the most qualified for this position at this time. Thank you.
You're muted. Mr. Lewis, you're muted.
Yes, sir. I was waiting for my my producer to unmute me. Thank you so much. I apologize. I had a little background noise with our noon train coming through. Okay, continuing on, and this was mentioned before, but we're talking about mass incarceration, which seems to steadily, unfortunately, be on the rise, with an emphasis on minority disparity due to the excessive sentencing in our court system. Case in point, I have a colleague that has a friend that was sentenced to 30 years, served 10 in the court systems, and he did 10 and served the other 20 years on probation. And I have an excerpt from an article that I pulled up called Invisible Punishment, which says 2 million imprisoned Americans and their families are being punished by factors well beyond incarceration. Advocates in criminal justice explore the far-reaching consequences of the incarceration. And through the 30 years of get tough policies and prisoners, ex-felons, and on families and communities who have committed no crimes, there are hidden ramifications of convictions for inmates and those who have already served their time, including a host of invisible punishments, from disenfranchisement, disqualification from public speaking, housing, welfare benefits, and job training, to greatly increase exposure to fatal diseases. Other essays examine the financially encumbered families who must travel hundreds of miles because of the rural prison movement, and the communities deprived of young men who would otherwise be starting families and careers, which seems to affect minorities the most. So question one is, and I give this to you, Ms. Austin Gatson, does this type of sentencing and approach to crime and punishment fit your view of fair rehabilitation practices? And then two, before recommending sentencing, if elected, would you consider the ramifications of that sentence on the families that are left behind?
Well, I think it's very important for families to remain involved with people that are being sentenced. And I say that because you have to have that root in that system, and it does impact the entire family when someone is sentenced to prison. I think with the truth in sentencing that came out, it shot the incarceration straight up. And that is a major problem. And once again, interrelatedness with legislation, we have to work on this. I mean, to have someone get a sentence and it's so long, they may not even see the Board of Pardons and Parole for 30 years. And to me, that is a waste of our human capacity. We have to work harder to keep people away from sentences like that. And that would be something I would definitely look at to see what we can do legislatively, what we can do within sentencing and recommendations for different types of sentences, and look at what the root of the problem is. Until we get to the root, I mean, just throwing people in jail is not going to keep us safe. And I think that's been a problem with the so-called law and order crew, where it just shot everything up. The progress that we made with criminal justice reform kind of just evaporated. When you have truth in sentencing and people are given these exorbitant long sentences, really that's not keeping us safe. What we're acting on is our emotion and looking at the crimes that they committed rather than looking at how does this make our community better and safer? How many families have been destroyed because of that? So I would definitely look at changes as far as that is concerned. Thank you. This
Okay,
little clock really works. It helps out.
thank you. So, Mr. Porter, the question again, does this type of sentencing and approach to crime and punishment fit your view of fair rehabilitation practices? And then two, before recommending sentencing, if elected, would you consider the ramifications of that sentence on the families that are left behind?
Well, first of all, I want you to understand that during my time as district attorney, I've been in prisons all over Georgia. I know what it's like to sentence someone to prison, and I know exactly what's going to happen when they get there. So we're very reluctant, when not required by the law, to seek long imprisonment terms. I was meeting yesterday with a pastor at New Mercy, and I showed him the statistics that our incarceration rate, at least in Gwinnett, follows. I helped write criminal justice reform with Governor Deal, and I believe in it. So we do actively seek alternatives to incarceration in particularly nonviolent cases. So I don't think that the incarceration that you describe is happening in Gwinnett County at the rate that you seem to describe it. But you always take into consideration, but you also have to take into consideration the victims' families. Some of these crimes they destroy families, and you have to take into account both. And that's why doing this job requires a level of experience that you can make those kinds of judgments. And just calling for change is not enough. You have to have a plan going forward, and you have to have a record of innovation that I have. And so I would say that you have to take into account all those factors. I'm not sure what Miss Austin Gadsden's talking about with truth in sentencing. That was a movement on the federal level, which was part of President Trump's criminal justice reform, but that hasn't affected the state. That's not in the state law.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, the law allows a district attorney a great deal of power over someone's rehabilitation. Even the newly passed Senate Bill 288, which would allow for many felony convictions to be restricted. It allows a prosecuting attorney to oppose the petition. Now, many DAs take the approach of opposing everything that comes across their desk as a way, as mentioned before, to be tough on crime. Now, the question is, how will your office balance punishment and rehabilitation regarding motions to modify sentences and restricting records? And I give that back over to you, Mr. Porter.
Well, I can only tell you by example, since word has gotten out about the ability of people to receive pardons, basically administratively through the Pardon and Parole Board, they always send me a letter. Do you oppose this or not? I've got 75 applications, and out of those, I've only opposed 2. I think a pardon, once a person served their sentence plus 5 years, a pardon is a great idea. And the only question that we ever get into is gun rights, whether they should get their gun rights back. But other than that, the other is that, for instance, I'm working on a case right now where a young man was, in my opinion, excessively sentenced on an armed robbery charge. I called an attorney today and asked him to help me get this young man out of prison. He's going to file a motion. I'm going to agree to it. And the only issue that we have is, can we get him home by Thanksgiving? And that's, so we take those issues on, and we take that very seriously. And I work hard. I work hard to make sure the sentences that come out of this office are just.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. The same question, Ms. Austin Gatson, is how will your office balance punishment and rehabilitation regarding motions to modify sentences and restricting records?
Mhm. Well, I presently am an employee with the Gwinnett County Solicitor's Office. And once again, this is very dear to my heart as far as restricting records. We ran a program where we worked with the Georgia Justice Project, where we worked on restricting records. And I think that is critical. It's critical that people have the ability to work and do the things that they need to do. On the other hand, once I am elected as the district attorney of Gwinnett County, I definitely will set up what's called a conviction integrity unit, because I believe that there are numerous people that have been sitting in jail and they've been sitting there unjustly. So my vent would be to go in, look at the cases that have transpired and make sure that people are not in jail when they're innocent, or even if they are guilty, that they have not been serving excessive sentences. I would assure that that would happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, at this point, we have another member and partner of GGRA that would like to ask a question. Mr. Farley Barge, are you there, sir?
I'm right here.
All right, go right ahead with your question.
Well, thank you so much, Lorenzo, and thank you, Ms. Austin Gadsden and Mr. Porter for being with us here today and allowing us to have this audience with you. It's a great opportunity for all of us. My name is Farley Barge, and I'm co-founder of Navigate Recovery Gwinnett. We help families and individuals that have been affected by the addiction crisis that's really causing great concern in our nation and continues to as the numbers continue to increase as a result of some of the COVID stay-at-home orders and loss of access to resources. But my question is more centered around partially the war on drugs and the fact that for the most part, most scholarly articles and studies that have been done have shown that it's not been very effective in decreasing the amount of the drugs being used or sold in our country, and it has had a pretty negative effect on the incarceration rate in our country. And also because at Navigate Recovery, we have the opportunity to do some safety training with many police officers over the past couple of years. And I always ask the question when we're doing the training, and that is, if you had an alternative to sending someone to jail, at that point of arrest, at that point where you are the biggest decision maker in someone's future, if you had a choice about whether to send them to jail or send them to a diversion program or another program that would allow them to perhaps address their addiction or their drug misuse problem, if that happens to be the case, or even possibly some mental health issues, would you take advantage of that? And invariably, almost to 100%, but I would conservatively say 80% of the participants in these programs and this training will say, yes, I would. And in fact, we've had officers bring individuals here to Navigate Recovery in our Lawrenceville offices. And we've tried to help them. There aren't enough resources out there, obviously, but that's a different topic for a different time. And what I really want to know is, would you seriously consider, and the support of a creation of a diversion program for nonviolent offenders, such as petty theft or possession of drugs, not with the intent to distribute, by the way, who may be also addicted to substances and or alcohol, to facilitate treatment and avoid incarceration and the costly legal proceedings and drain on the taxpayers of Gwinnett County. And I guess we could start with Ms. Austin Gadsden.
Thank you. I think you are 100% right. It's like what I said earlier, getting to the underlying root of why people are committing crimes. I think that has to be looked at, and it has to be developed and explored why people are committing crimes. And you are right when you're saying that the petty crimes, you will find people that have substance abuse problems. And I believe that that is beginning to happen. We have the opioid crisis now, and I have seen where there are more emphasis on treatment rather than punishment. And I think that has to happen. And I'm happy that a group like yours, Navigate Recovery, is out there to help people. And as you indicated, we don't even have enough resources to deal with it. And I think it comes from like an early age. We got to start working with our children. And that's one of the things that I will have an emphasis on. When I was in grade school, I can remember firemen coming to our school and telling us, if you don't smoke, don't start. Of course, none of us had started, but that kind of stuck out in my psyche, and I never became a smoker. So we have to find ways to get with students, young people, have more of a public service outreach where we can impact lives. And I believe that that is one of the responsibilities of a district attorney, is prevention. And that's one of the other areas that I will work extremely hard on, to work with our community so our children do not come into the criminal justice system, that they know that we care about them and they have a hope in a future in our community. So hopefully we can start digging in and getting things adjusted where kids are not looking at that as something that's good to happen. We have to work harder with our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Gadsden. And Mr. Porter, it's on you, sir.
I hate to ask this, but can you repeat the question? Would I, okay, well, I guess, let me see if I can paraphrase it. The first part, as I understood it, would I support a diversion program rather than jail for low-level offenses? I think the first thing you have to understand is the district attorney doesn't prosecute low-level offenses. We don't prosecute the minor thefts or the small possession of drug cases. We prosecute felonies. Most of those cases involve either large thefts or danger. And so bond is an entirely different question for the district attorney than it is for the solicitor. You know, Ms. Gadsden talks about the changes she wants to make. She's been in top management of the solicitor's office for 2 years and they haven't changed anything. So, but I would absolutely support rather than jail. I grew up in a family of addiction. Absolutely, drug addicts don't need to go to jail, and people who are homeless don't need to go to jail, and people who are committing minor thefts don't need to go to jail. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of resources, and there's not a lot of sympathy for it at the legislature. Now, that may change as we evolve, but right now it's been very difficult. You got to understand that diversion programs and those types of things help prosecutors. They lighten our caseload. They get people out of the court system. And so most prosecutors support that, just like I do.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you both.
May I take a second to respond? He called me out and said, I haven't done anything since I've been with the solicitor's office, which is of course not true, as of many things that I've heard coming from District Attorney Porter at this point. But we have worked in the solicitor's office. We've dismissed a ton of marijuana charge cases. As I indicated earlier, we did the record restriction in the solicitor's office, and I will strive to bring those types of help forward into the DA's office. And as I indicated, getting to the root of what causes issues is what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'd like a minute.
Excuse me. I do want to say that we want to have a conversation. We didn't want to have a debate. We just wanted to have a nice, civil conversation. So I'll give you a chance to respond, Mr. Porter, but please, I don't want anyone taking any digs.
The marijuana situation and the dismissal of marijuana cases because of technological problems involving testing of minor amounts of marijuana. That can be done now, but it's incredibly expensive. So I don't blame the solicitor's office for not prosecuting those. As far as diversion, right now they're going into court and recommending 10 days in jail for first-time offenders for shoplifting, for DUI, for all the other minor crimes. The recommendation to Mr. Whiteside, and he's published it, is 10 days in jail for first-time offenders. So that to me is not diversion, and that's the truth.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you both for coming on, giving us your time this afternoon. Before we leave, very, very briefly, let us know why we should consider you for this office of District Attorney coming up in this election. Very, very quickly, Miss Austin Gaston, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I have that issue with my hyphenated name. And it's been like that since I married my husband, Travis Gatson. But one thing I want the listeners to understand is that this is a new day. This is a new day. And we need a new, fresh perspective on how we look at what a district attorney does. And all across the country, things are changing, and we cannot stay locked into a DA that's been there for 28 years. And what I would bring to the district attorney's office is a new perspective, new vision, new way of doing things. And of course, that will mean a culture change. And we have to look at what our society needs now. And that's what I would bring. I would ask people to go to my website, Patsy, Patsy, the number 4da.com to learn more about me and reach out to me and ask me any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And you, Mr. Porter?
I think the most important reason people should vote for me is that the COVID has done incredible damage to the court system. We're going to have thousands of cases moving into the system. And it's going to take someone, first of all, who has the ability to try cases, and second of all, who has managed court calendars to deal with that. Otherwise, there's going to be significant injustice because people are going to have to wait for their trials. This is a job, particularly in this day, that requires experience and requires competence. And that's why I believe people should vote for me. My website is votedannyporter.com. We have our platform there and on our Facebook page. And I'd appreciate people's support on November the 3rd, or with early voting on October the 12th, or by absentee ballot. And I appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to you.
All right. Thank you both so much for taking this time, Ms. Austin Gatson and Mr. Porter. Thank you so much. And as Mr. Porter said, election day is November 3rd, but we have early voting starting on October the 12th to the 30th. So get out there and vote. So thank you guys so much just for tuning in. And then also I want to say that our next GGRA Luncheon will be November the 7th. So look on your calendars, look out for that. And we hope that you will join us coming back in November. Again, thank you, everybody that was a part of this wonderful conversation with the candidates. And thank you, members and also partners, just for tuning in, and everyone else out there on YouTube. I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.